Developing and devastating story here in Thailand today, where around 1:30 local time, an earthquake struck almost the entire country. And now this earthquake, the epicenter was in Myanmar. However, the damage and the aftershocks of the earthquake were felt almost all the way through the country, especially here in Bangkok, in the center of the country, where there's a lot of skyscrapers on the skyline and there's a lot of construction projects. And one of those construction projects actually collapsed at a park that's very famous here in the city. And at that project, it was initially estimated that 40 workers were on that project today, but we have since received news that there's at least 80 people who were working there today on that site. And so they are still being searched for. I do not have any current updates on the status of the victims that were involved in that construction site. However, the governor has put the city under a state of emergency and has deployed search teams to work on that issue. Now, in the meantime, the other things that the government has done is advise the public to be aware of aftershocks of earthquakes. It seems that that time period of 1 hour has passed and there haven't been any serious movements. So it seems that people are feeling that they are in the safe zone. However, there's still a lot of fear here in Bangkok, where after the earthquake, thousands of people were seen running out of shopping malls, condos. This is a place where basically everything is air conditioned. It's a very hot country, and it is also one that is not accustomed to earthquakes. So as soon as people realized that things were shaking and that this was an earthquake, panic ensued, both from tourists and from locals. For me personally, I was standing on the street outside of a convenience store that I had to evacuate from, and people were immediately talking to me about the possibility of a tsunami, because that is something that happened here 20 years ago, and this earthquake brought up the fear of that happening again. So panic was coming from that, as well as the fact that there's images and videos being shared online that are kind of devastating. People are showing the interiors of their homes destroyed. There's also several videos of infinity pools on the skyline of Bangkok that are overflowing onto the street. Construction materials like cranes have collapsed, and also people are seeking medical treatment en masse, which is overloading local healthcare centers. And the government is doing the best that it can to communicate to people that they are doing safety checks on things like the airports, which has been cleared, as well as the public transportation methods. But currently, the city is almost an entire gridlock. The traffic here is not moving at all. There's a lot of people still on foot. There's people who are scared to go back into the buildings, many of which they live in, because in this city, that's how it is. However, on the other side of the border in Myanmar, so there are reports coming in that there has been similar, if not greater amounts of devastation. But that information is still hard to confirm. But we have seen some early images of people at hospitals that are clearly overburdened by the number of people who are coming that have been injured by buildings that are collapsing or things falling on the street. So as I said earlier, this is a developing story, but it is definitely sending shockwaves throughout the entire country.